Alright guys, in today's video we're going to be reacting to a brief summary of Cookie Run Kingdom lore. So on the previous video we were talking about the whole White Lily cookie drama situation, and then before that we reacted to every single animated cutscene in the game. So after I reacted to that I was like, damn bro, like the story seems pretty interesting. So I actually want to take the opportunity to really understand the lore. And I ended up finding this video right over here. This video was posted like 3 months ago, so it's not updated because, you know, they release more, like they release a lot of chapters within those 3 months. So I just want to get like an overview of what's going on in this game. And you guys did show a lot of support on my animated cutscene reaction video. I think it's about to hit like 300 likes. I appreciate y'all. So if this video, all right, if this video, let me go ahead and switch my screen. If this video hits 500 likes, I will do a video of me pulling on the legendary banner, because right now there's like a legendary cookie gacha banner where you're pulling for Millennial Tree and all the nature cookies. So if you guys bring this video up to 500 likes, I will make that video. So without further ado, man, let's go ahead and react to this.
You finally decided to join the League of Overanalyzing Theorists, but find the game's story to be way too overwhelming to be digested in one sitting? Don't worry, I got you. Here's some key terms and facts that will help you get started if you want to become a Cookie Run Kingdom theorist, simplified and handpicked for your own convenience.
Now, I don't want to become a theorist, okay? I don't know about that, but I want to know what's going on. Okay, I want to know what's going on. So yeah, let's see.
By yours truly, of course.
Let's see if this game is actually worth my time in terms of like me trying to understand what's going on.
Proceed though, do take note that there will inevitably be major spoilers ahead. Proceed at your own risk. Alright, hold on tight. This will be quite a doozy.
The witches.
Naturally, the first question you would ask is, where did this all begin? And the answer is simple. It began with the witches. Witches are humans responsible for the creation of a majority of everything in-game. Usually, they would bake cookies with the intention of eating them, as a majority of their known diet consists of eating sweet things like cakes. The witches meet every 1,000 years in an event known as the Night of the Witches. In this
every 1,000 years. So you mean to tell me these witches come together every 1,000 years to eat cookies? Okay, bro.
Blanket of sorts, they exchange meals and bake cookies to be viciously eaten. This was actually the event that White Lily saw when she was initially searching for the truth of the purpose of the cookie's creation. But that piece of information can wait, of course. It's important to take note that not all witches have this intent to eat cookies, as there are a few who make powerful cookies for the purpose of protecting themselves, others, or general peace. An example of this would be the witches who created the 5 beasts and imbued them with the pristine virtues to lead Earthbread. Another example.
How many witches are there? You guys can let me know in the comment section down below, but she did say there's like a few that are like, they're not like, there's a few witches that don't want to eat the cookies and there's a few witches that do. So I'm guessing there's like a group, like a group of witches. I don't know the amount.
Would be the witch that Black Forest Cookie fervently worships, which she calls them. Of course, you're probably most familiar with the witch you'd see in the gacha animation. According to the wiki, she is responsible for the creation of a majority of the playable cookies in-game, and the only known witch to still exist in canon, as they vanished a long time ago.
Interesting. So the witches that pretty much created the cookies vanished, but one of them is still alive, and this is the witch here. Because I do know this one, like when you pull for characters, you see her. Like this is the animation you see all the time. So, interesting.
In canon, as they vanished a long time ago.
Earthbread.
To put it simply, Earthbread is a planet. Its main known landmass, which is shaped like a gingerbread man, is called the Cookie Kingdom. Just to clarify, the player's own kingdom is also called the Cookie Kingdom. But that's not what I'm talking about, as your kingdom is alternatively called the Brave Kingdom, which of course is named after Ginger Brave. You can think of the Cookie Kingdom as the collective landmasses wherein all known history and places currently exist.
Yo, it's literally a huge cookie broken to pieces, and then you have the crown here. Yo, that's actually insane. Silent Ocean, Sugar Ocean, Jellyfish Ocean, Crispia, Soda Ocean. Oh, these names are so goofy, but hey, bro, it's a cookie game, man. Like, what do you expect?
In-game. Though people interchangeably call the Cookie Kingdom landmass as Earthbread, other unlabeled lands outside this big major landmass are implied to exist. There are 5 continents on the known Earthbread, which for the sake of this section, I will call Cookie Kingdom for accuracy. The first continent is Crispia, and you might be more familiar with this as this is where the first 18 episodes of the game's story mode take place. To be exact, the following locations can be found here: the Hollyberry Kingdom, Dark Cacao Kingdom, Golden Cheese Kingdom, Dragon's Valley, City of Wizards, Tower of Frozen Waves, Desert Paradise, Giant Icing Ridge, Cream Cake Mountains, Wish Tree, Milky Way Lake, Jelly Swamp, and the Durian Island. The second continent is the Candy Stick Archipelago, home to the Vanilla Kingdom, Creme Republic, Secret Fig Forest.
Yo, this
Candy
place looks
Stick
sick.
Archipelago, home to the Vanilla Kingdom, Creme Republic.
Yo, looks cool. Yo, just imagine what like they can do with Cookie Run New World. That would be dope. Like, cause it's gonna be an open world game, so
Jungle, Coconut Forest, Salty Drop Island, Sour Dressing River, Sparkling Volcano, and Tropical Soda Islands. This archipelago is mostly surrounded by water, which would explain why both the prosperous Creme Republic and the beachy Tropical Soda Islands are located here. The third continent is Hulgrania, and there's not much information about this continent. According to the wiki, Hulgrania houses Parfadia, which is the home to the Parfadia Institute and where cream puff, espresso, latte, almond, and prune juice cookie are known to be citizens of. It is interesting to note that the following locations are under this continent: Bloody Jam Mountains, Death Swamp, Judgment Ravine, Lake of Truth, Black Luna Sea, and the Sugar-Free Road. More on the last one later. The fourth continent is Sugarberg, and it is only composed of 2 locations, of which we do not have any information at all: Rainbow Horn and Crystal Sorbet Island. The fifth and last known continent is Beast East, and you're probably also familiar with this as this is where the majority of the Shadow Milk propaganda originated. Yes, this is where the Fairy Kingdom is, and also the location of the Spire of Deceit and Truth, or the Blue Tower, the Forgotten Sugar Paradise, formerly known.
So in this continent, this is where, not continent, but actually yeah, in that continent, that's where all the beast cookies are. Beasties.
Known as Sugar Paradise, Flower Peak of Transcendence, or the Flower Mountains, Great Destroyer's Tomb, or the Spice Ridge, the Land of Silence, or the Black Salt Flatland, and the Island of Life. And if you feel like this is too much information right now, don't worry,
a lot of info.
We'll discuss the relevant kingdoms and locations later on, one by one. So don't force yourself to memorize all of them in one go.
Soul Jams. Now I am familiar with this.
Soul Gems are, to put it simply, mythical items. There are 5 of these shining jewels made by the witches upon the creation of Earthbread, and they have an affinity for cookies with strong ideals fit to lead cookie kind. Before we proceed, I need to clarify something first. The word Soul Gem is the generalized umbrella term for these objects, but the actual term for the individual soul gems themselves are the light of truth, the light of freedom, the light of resolution, the light of passion, and the light of abundance. Now, you're probably wondering about the current owners of these mythical objects. Well, they are held...
Yeah, I know this. Alright, I know this. We got Pure Vanilla here, Hollyberry, Dark Cacao, White Lily, and Golden Cheese. I know that. These are the 5 ancient cookies. Like, when you played the game, they literally introduced these cookies. Literally.
by a class of cookies dubbed as the
These are the
Ancients.
first cookies you see once you
Specifically,
download the
the
game.
following soul gems are held by the following Ancients. The Light of Truth, held by Pure Vanilla Cookie. The Light of Freedom, held by a White Lily Cookie. The Light of Resolution, held by Dark Cacao Cookie. The Light of Passion, held by Hollyberry Cookie. And the Light of Abundance, held by Golden Cheese Cookie. It is important to note, however, that these 5 Ancients are not the original owners of the soul gems. They were first acquired by the 5 beasts, initially called the 5 virtues, before they became corrupted. You can think of the current soul gems available in-game as a second generation of soul gems, as their originals had completely different values imbued in them. The original first generation soul gems were imbued with 5 distinct virtues: knowledge, happiness, volition, change, and solidarity. They were created by the primordial witches and were made with the purest substance of them all, the life.
Okay, that's very interesting. So the Beast cookies are pretty much the original owners of the 5 soul gems. And then they got corrupted. And then we have the second generation, new generation, which is Hollyberry, Pure Vanilla, etc. They're the new owners of these soul gems. Okay, that makes sense.
Powder. Then, the witches gave the 5 righteous cookies, who are now the beasts, these 5 original soul gems. However, the raw power corrupted them. The salt of solidarity, the last to fall amongst the 5, sealed away the beasts along with himself with the help of Elder Fairy Cookie in the beast.
Oh, wait.
Away the beasts.
Wait.
Them. The salt of solidarity, the last to fall amongst the 5, sealed away the beasts along.
Oh, so he was good. He was good. He was like, yo, we tripping, bro. I gotta seal us up because we bugging. So, I think this one is Silent Salt. I do have him. So Silent Salt was actually like aware that him and everybody else, they're corrupted. So he ended up sealing himself alongside the other beast cookies. I didn't know about that.
With himself with the help of Elder Fairy Cookie in the Beast Yeast's silver tree. As a result, the original soul gems got split into half, scattered itself among the Cookie Kingdom, and got locked behind various trials. The ancients who currently possess them now were once ordinary cookies who simply surpassed these trials through their ideals, therefore blessing them with immense power and the agelessness to lead cookies. The other corrupted half, for those of you who are wondering, are what the current beast cookies possess. The original virtues, now corrupted gems, became deceit, sloth, apathy, destruction, and silence. Soul gems are also sentient, as they possess something called its voice. This voice often speaks directly to the soul gem's owner during times of turmoil. It is possible for an ancient cookie to lose ownership of the soul gem when they lose their quote-unquote worthiness to wield it, as shown during several instances in
Just like Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. If you're no longer worthy, you can't lift the hammer anymore.
the Beast East episodes. However, a showcase of great willpower and desire wins back the soul gem and consequentially lets the ancient undergo a process called their awakening, which gives them
Yo, that
greater
animation
power
with
and
Halle Berry
control
is so
over the
sick.
soul gem.
Okay, so that segment, I think that was the most interesting segment. Like the whole like continent stuff, it's just whatever. But this one was definitely the most interesting one because I didn't know that Silent Salt Cookie was the one who sealed all the beast cookies, including himself, because they were corrupted. I didn't know about that, so that's new information to me.
For this section and the beasts as well, I will only give the most important information that you will need in order to understand a majority of the lore. For a more in-depth analysis of each character, I will make separate videos for each of them, so subscribe if you want to see all of that. Pure Vanilla was the founder and king of the Vanilla Kingdom. He is an extremely powerful wielder of magic who uses it to heal others. During Pure Vanilla's younger days, he used to attend the Blueberry Yogurt Academy alongside White Lily. Although exceedingly gifted with magic, he would skip his classes just to join White Lily with her experiments, as he finds his classes boring without her. He snuck out of the library a forbidden book that only professors are allowed to read to aid their experiments. However, he had to depart from White Lily's experimentation as her continued interest in pursuing the perfect cookies were becoming more and more unethical. It's important to note that Pure Vanilla underwent an arduous—
I mean, that makes sense because later on, like White Lily Cookie ended up becoming Dark Enchantress.
pilgrimage in the 12 trials of Sugar-Free Road. Upon accomplishing this grueling pilgrimage, he gains the light of truth and eventually founded the Vanilla Kingdom. The Vanilla Kingdom is home to Earthbread's greatest institution for the pursuit of both healing and white magic, of which Pure Vanilla is an acclaimed master of. Legend has it that the Sugar Swan herself has blessed this kingdom upon being founded. During the peaceful times, which is basically the era
let me go back here real quick. So apparently, Sugar Swan, this over here, apparently this is the most overpowered cookie in the game. That's what people were telling me in the comment section down below on my other video. But they were telling me that, because I thought Timekeeper Cookie was the most OP, but seems like it's Sugar Swan because they said she created everything, I guess.
Upon being founded. During the peaceful times, which is basically the era before the Dark Flower War, Pure Vanilla was the king of the land and worked with other government officials like Premier Custard Cookie to oversee the affairs of the kingdom. Currently though, due to its low population and as a result of Pure Vanilla giving up the throne as he wished for his kingdom to be a home for all without a need for a king, it runs on a very unclear system of governance. However, it is important to note that Pure Vanilla stands as the political leader and representative of the kingdom during formal events like the Cookie Odyssey. Their denizens are called the Vanillians, and
yo, this is so crazy, bro. We got politics, we got governments, we got kingdoms in a cookie game. This is actually insane.
during the beginnings of the Dark Flower War, several Vanillians fled the kingdom out of fear for their lives and consequently established the Creme Republic. Now known as the Queen Mother of the Hollyberry Kingdom, Hollyberry Cookie founded the Hollyberry Kingdom, and she is a cookie who values friendship above all else. She holds the light of passion, and she loves drinking berry juice, which is basically alcohol. She was also able to unite the berry families under one banner, allowing for the creation of the Hollyberry Kingdom. She eventually meets and defeats Pitaya Dragon Cookie in battle at some point after this.
Oh, look at that animation, bro!
Cookie in battle at some point after this, which is seen from her gacha animation. Dark Cacao saw the anomalous events occurring in the frozen snowfield as black lightning and dark clouds enveloped the area. As he swore to save the cookies from this torment, Dark Cacao mediates the fight between the Black Dragon of the North and the White Dragon of the South, obtains the Light of Resolution, and establishes the Dark Cacao Kingdom.
Bro, that animation is
Cookie's
wild.
establishment of her kingdom began as a treasure hunting expedition for her. As she heard of rumors of a great treasure in the ruins of a civilization, she went to find it by defeating the monsters that guarded its trials. Upon acquiring the Light of Abundance, she establishes the Golden Cheese Kingdom and is crowned by the High Priestess Cheesebird. Now, White Lily's acquisition of the Light of Freedom is a little tricky. As she was an exemplary student in the Blueberry Yogurt Academy, she was skipping her classes along with Pure Vanilla Cookie to start experimenting.
So what I find really interesting is like all the ancient cookies she talked about. Pure Vanilla, he's like the leader of, I think, the Vanilla Kingdom. I forgot. Holly Berry, she's like the leader of her own kingdom as well. Dark Cacao is also like the king of his own kingdom. And then Golden Cheese, she's like the leader of her own kingdom as well. But when it comes to White Lily Cookie, she's like, it's more like she's going around adventuring and just doing her own thing. She's not the queen of anything. She's just exploring, right? Trying to seek out answers, trying to see the truth, trying to find out, you know, how do we exist? Like, how did we end up here? You know what I'm saying? So I find that very cool because she is like, her soul jam is associated with freedom. So that makes a lot of sense
on how to make cookies less susceptible to crumbling apart. As she continued on with the experiments, however, this brought ruin upon the faculty and the entirety of the academy. She seals the chaos left in the Blueberry Academy and basically cleans up her mess. However, she is always haunted by the nightmares of what she did. Desperate to find answers, she prays to the witches and asks as to why cookies are made so small and fragile. Then, the Light of Freedom descends to her grasp and grants her with enough power to see seek the truth. She then departs to Beast East and helps Silverbell Cookie, who then grants her access to the Fairy Kingdom. The 5 beasts, who were currently sealed in the Silver Tree at that time, was starting to seep through by splitting a crack in the tree, to which White Lily seals with vines. As she is venerated as a hero, she stays in the Fairy Kingdom for 6 months or so, before she stumbles upon the fabled Night of the Witches in the Fairy Library. Despite Elder Fairy begging her not to go, White Lily has made up.
Honestly, it seems like White Lily is the most important ancient cookie. Of course, you got Pure Vanilla and then all the other ones, but I feel like she's the most important one because she's like pretty much helping Elder Fairy, this guy over here. I think that's Elder Fairy, and then all these other cookies in like the Fairy Kingdom, pretty much trying to defend the entire cookie world from the beast. So I feel like she's the most important one.
Her mind and left for the Night of the Witches. As she arrives at the banquet, she discovers the truth as to why cookies are made. They are made to be eaten by the witches. Upon finding out this dark truth, she falls to the ultimate dough and gets rebaked into Dark Enchantress Cookie. You can think of Dark Enchantress Cookie as a White Lily's alter ego or other self, the version of her who refuses to be eaten by the witches and who refuses the fate preordained for all cookies. As a result, Dark Enchantress terrorizes the land in order to disrupt the will of nature.
Interesting. Okay. So that's how she pretty much became Dark Enchantress. Like, she didn't become her, it's more like the opposite of White Lily Cookie.
The saintly virtue of volition. As she used to answer the wishes of countless cookies of the past, she was beloved and looked up to by her followers. As time passed, however, several cookies of greed abused her kindness, and the disinterest from her followers grew, which resulted in her turning to the doctrine of apathy, believing everything in the world is futile. Burning Spice was once a great leader known as the Herald of Change. He used to stand as the enduring and steadfast virtue of change. Yet, as he saw countless civilizations rise and fall, his distaste for this cyclicality has led him to pursue the destruction of all civilizations. Now, he is known as the destroyer of all things. He who used to be the fountain of knowledge, Shadow Milk held the virtue of knowledge and taught the wisdom of magic to the cookies of the land. Yet, as time passed by,
these were pretty much the beast cookies before they got corrupted and what they stood for.
he was inevitably consumed by deceit and now resides in Beast East, spreading lies all throughout Earthbread. Eternal Sugar was once the sugar of happiness, granting delights to cookies and saving them when necessary. As she saw the never-ending cycle of pain and crumbling, however, she had decided to construct the Garden of Delights, an endless dessert paradise filled with hedonism and blissful ignorance wherein one can never truly leave once they have stepped foot inside of it.
So she has a domain expansion in a way, bro. She pretty much Eternal Sugar pretty much has a domain expansion where you cannot leave, bro. You're locked in there forever. That is actually insane.
And one can never truly leave once they have stepped foot inside of it. Silent Salt was the salt of solidarity. Unlike the other virtues who governed or ruled over cookies, he alone stood as their equal as part of his oath to solidarity, establishing the Kalanamak Knights. However, as the other virtues became corrupted and turned into beasts, they all band together to destroy the Kalanamak Knights. After a visit from the Fairy Kingdom, the Salt of Solidarity discovers the complete slaughter of his army and his kingdom, and as he was consumed by despair, proceeded to crumble everything around him, which corrupted even him in the process. As a final act of salvation, Silent Salt and Elder Fairy sealed the beasts together, including Silent Salt himself, through the usage of a silver sapling and the witch's magic as an act of revenge for what the other beasts did to his army. Now, he is called the Devil of Silence.
I think Silent Salt is my favorite one out of all the beasts. Like, Eternal Sugar, her ability is, like, I like it. The fact that she can create, like, a domain. But I like Silent Salt a lot more because he seems like the most, like, mature and the most, like, how can I say it? Like, you know he has aura, but he's the type of guy that has a fuck ton of aura, but you don't, like, he doesn't really project that a lot. Like, he doesn't have to say that I have that much aura. He just lets his aura speak for itself. That's the type of guy Silent Soul Cookie is. So I like him a lot more. The fact that he just operates in silence.
The Dark Floor War was started by Dark Enchantress Cookie, and it marked the period for the end of the peaceful reign of the ancient cookies. If you will recall, the starting cutscene of the game included Pure Vanilla Cookie and the 4 other ancients banding together to vanquish Dark Enchantress Cookie. That was directly the climax of the war itself, as it led Pure Vanilla to seal Dark Enchantress Cookie in Moonstone, though as a result leaked out a visage of White Lily to roam around the lands in search of herself. As the soul gems exploded due to the immense amount of power concentrated by Pure Vanilla just to seal Dark Enchantress, the remaining civilizations declined and the kingdoms governed by the ancients were brought to ruin. The aftermath of the war was brutal, as some of the ancients lost their memories whilst a majority lost their kingdoms or suffered heavy losses. The Vanilla Kingdom was left empty and inhabited only by automatons and a young strawberry crepe cookie left behind in a cryo-baking pod. With Pure Vanilla's memories vanishing as a consequence of sealing away Dark Enchantress Cookie, he adopted the identity of a healer cookie who resided in an abandoned village, serving as their lone healer. The Hollyberry Kingdom, though not thoroughly destroyed, was abandoned by Hollyberry Cookie, as she felt she was not worthy of neither her great shield nor her kingdom due to her failure to defend those dearest to her. She left her son Royalberry Cookie and his wife Jungleberry Cookie to govern it in her absence, although this would not last long, as Pitaya Dragon Cookie would soon occupy the throne. She then traveled the lands as a nameless hunter, as she spent her days defeating beasts and hoping the rest of the world forgets her legacy. Dark Cacao, on the other hand, went into a frenzy of shielding his kingdom from outside forces through the fortification of its walls and the heightening of its defenses. However, this led to Dark Cacao burrowing himself deeper into the cradles of his black citadel, until his subjects were no longer allowed to seek an audience with him. As a result of these extreme isolation, the small villages outside the kingdom
Yo, this lore is interesting, bro. This shit got me locked in, man.
Were overrun by beasts, and the citizens who begged for help from their king were only met with closed gates. Receiving the worst aftermath out of all of the kingdoms, Golden Cheese's kingdom was absolutely wiped out. And I mean literally nothing but ashes remained. This led Golden Cheese to recreate her glorious kingdom in the virtual world, where she could—
So her kingdom got absolutely destroyed. At least for like the other ancient cookies, their kingdom was, still there. Pure Vanilla's, his was cooked, but at least it was still there in a way. Like at least the people were still there. But for Golden Cheese, like her entire kingdom is gone. I think all the people within her kingdom, like all the citizens, are gone as well.
Spend her days with her subjects without having to face the reality that they are long gone.
Damn, that sucks, dude. Yeah, Golden Cheese definitely had it the hardest.
Wizards are the counterparts of the witches, yet unlike them, they do not have any desire to create cookies for the sake of consumption. Instead, they have a deep fascination for astronomy and the study of other celestial objects, such as the moon. They are also precise and desire perfection when creating cookies.
So far, when it comes to humans in this game, we got witches and wizards. Those are the only humans that we know about so far.
They usually create them with the intention of turning them into helpers to speed up their research. As of now, only 4 cookies are known to be baked by the wizards themselves. Stardust Cookie, whose dough was an imperfect predecessor to Moonlight's and thus thrown away to the cosmos. Moonlight Cookie, deemed to be the perfect dough imbued with the power of both the stars and the moon. Blueberry Pie Cookie, the keeper of the archives in the City of Wizards. And Sugar Glass Cookie. For context, the City of Wizards was the home of the wizards and where they conducted their astronomical studies. It is said that its construction—
Wait, so the wizards actually lived? Like, wait, I'm confused. So, do humans like? I'm so confused. So, do humans actually live on Earthbread? Like, do they live with the cookies? Because that doesn't make any sense. I don't know. You guys can let me know in the comment section down below. But that part is a little bit confusing to me.
Was derived from countless mathematical equations that would optimize its location based on the astronomical phenomena that the wizards desired to study.
Nature.
Though it is hard to fully define what this so-called nature is, Frost Queen Cookie describes it as a force which weaves the world and basically has the rules that reality must follow in order for it to not collapse. The force of nature's ultimate goal is balance amongst everything, which then resulted into a so-called cyclical flux of how things work. This includes the cycle of life and life energy. It is important to note, however, that an opposing force to nature exists, where its own principles can be twisted for one's own gain. This would therefore be called darkness, a manifestation of everything that opposes the will of the land. This is most prevalently used by Dark Enchantress Cookie, as she uses black magic, which is basically the manipulation of the principles of nature and extracting magical abilities from it. Now, the cycle of life is basically the reincarnation cycle in Cookie Run Kingdom, as an underlying principle of nature that describes the baking, crumbling, and being rebaked again. It must not and cannot be broken for the sake of Earthbread and the entire universe. Life energy is described as the purest essence of all things, which keeps everything on Earthbread and the entire universe going. It is a life flow that sustains existence and is seemingly dictated by the great sugar swan. Life powder, on the other hand, is a source.
That pretty much confirms that Sugar Swan is pretty much like the strongest cookie there is, in a way. Like, she's the one who essentially created everything.
Of life energy that brings desert creatures to life. It flows through the natural elements like the rain, and the continued cycle of this is upheld by the elemental cookies, collectively known as the guardians of nature.
And wait, so I have another question. So after the cookies are created, so let's say the wizards, the witches, they make the cookies. Do they just send them to Earthbread? Like, after they create them, they open their window and they just throw the cookie out, and then they're in. Like, I don't know how it works, because I don't know if the witches and wizards actually live on Earthbread. I have no idea. So, like, how are the cookies, like, how do they just spawn in Earthbread? I don't get that part at all.
These seven
Wait,
elemental
what is it? Elemental guardians. Okay.
These seven elemental guardians uphold the will of nature, and are granted great power and knowledge by this unifying force. According to the wiki, they are one with the world itself, as they hold the cycle of life in their very grasps. The seven guardians comprise of the following: Moonlight Cookie, the guardian of dreams; Sea Fairy Cookie, the almighty sea; Wind Archer, the wind that vanquishes the darkness; Frost Queen, the sovereign of winter; Millennial Tree, the overseer of all life and time; Fire Spirit Cookie, the embodiment
Wait,
of
what?
Feel
He's the
Tree,
overseer of life and
all
time?
life and time.
I thought that was Timekeeper Cookie. Okay, so Millennial Tree is stronger than Timekeeper in a way. If he's the overseer of time, then in a way he is stronger than her.
Our Spirit Cookie, the embodiment of flame; and Stormbringer, the ruler of the skies and lightning. It is important to note that Sea Fairy Cookie has long given up her role as a guardian, yet she is still connected to the flow of life and acknowledged by her fellow elemental cookies. Now, this isn't that relevant, I suppose, but there exist spirits who act as messengers or servants of these aforementioned guardians. The only playable one as of now is Sherbet Cookie, the messenger of snowfall, and obviously under Frost Queen's domain. The other ones that we do know in-game are Wind Deity Cookie, whose wind gathers life powder and rises it to the skies in preparation to return it to Earth; Cloud Deity Cookie, whose clouds are created from the life powder which drifts up from the Earth to the skies; and Rain Deity Cookie, whose rain returns life powder to the Earth after it has risen to the skies. They are the three godly deputies of Stormbringer Cookie, and as you have probably noticed, have roles that mimic the rain cycle greatly.
Very interesting. So 7 guardians of nature, and then those 7 guardians also have like servants. They have people who serve them in a way. That's pretty cool. I like that. Now, if you guys are wondering who's my favorite one, I will say my favorite one is Stormbringer. I think Stormbringer is cool. I mean, I'm a huge fire guy. Like, I like fire characters, but there's just something about Stormbringer. She just looks really cool. Plus, I have her skin, and her skin is dope.
The ultimate cookie is a product of Dark Enchantress's research as she searches for the ultimate recipe to create the ultimate evil for her plans. Apologies for using the same word thrice in a row. I know my English professor is probably rolling in anguish right now. Sorry, ma'am. What's interesting with the creation of this creature, however, was that it was basically a segue of Dark Enchantress Cookie as she promises the beasts with renewed and recreated bodies. This is also why the beasts are willing to cooperate with Dark Enchantress. While she was slowly fulfilling this part of their agreement, she
also the beast cookies were cooperating with her. Very interesting. I thought Dark Enchantress, she was just doing this by herself. Okay.
Directed some of her kidnapped researchers to the study of bringing soulless cookies to life and channeling their life energy to this single being. It is a byproduct of a dough having been fed with massive quantities of life energy, which, as you probably know by now, is a big no-no by nature's playbook. Due to its creation, several anomalies
look at this animation, bro.
Earthbread, and Millennial Tree Cookie notes that its creation would only bring forth ruin if born successfully. It resides in the dingy laboratorium and is bound to consume the life energy being fed to it, a process which Wind Archer notices is causing its suffering. The ultimate cookie has been in despair as it is crying in pain and in anguish, which led to Wind Archer attempting to heal the ultimate cookie's pain, even if just for a brief moment. When Wind Archer escaped, however, it returned to the despair and to consuming the life energy.
Okay, so the ultimate cookie.
The Creme Republic was established by the fleeing denizens of the Vanilla Kingdom during the Dark Flower War. As they escaped via airship, they discovered a small seaside village of seafaring cookies, and together they established the Creme Republic. It is important to note that the Republic is divided into two cities: the Upper City, occupied by the Vanillian descendants, and the Lower City, occupied by the original seafaring cookies. There's actually tension between the two, as the citizens of the Lower City do not wish to associate with the Upper City's culture and see them as tyrannical invaders who took their right.
This reminds me of, if you guys watch Gachi Akuta, this reminds me of Gachi Akuta where like Rudo was in the sphere and then it was split up with like it was like a division between, how can I say this? It was divided between lower level, higher level in a way, right? You got upper level, lower level, class citizens. This is what this reminds me of.
Rightful territory when they established the Creme Republic all those years ago. Now, the Creme Republic was led by the 9 elders and their consul. These elders hold significant spheres of influence over several facets of the Republic and are aristocratic in nature. Clotted Cream Cookie is the appointed young consul of the elders who lead the Republic through unifying their decisions. He's basically the leader of the Republic, though final decisions still have to go through the elders' approval first. Oyster Cookie, head of House Oyster, and whose sphere of influence specializes in maritime trade and knows a great deal of information brokerage, which is basically scraping off personal
Yo, this is, oh my gosh, dude, I was not expecting all of this in a cookie game, bro. I like literally was not expecting all of this in a cookie game.
Special pieces of information for either commercial purposes or personal gain. Captain Caviar Cookie is the head of the House Caviar and the only representative of the Choco Mud Town, which is a town that is part of the Lower City. His house specializes in fighting with pirates, and he is seen as a hero in the eyes of the Republic. Custard Cookie, head of House Custard, and whose sphere of influence is over the politics of the Republic. Now, this guy, he's annoying. He's selfish, and he literally sees everyone as either pawns or obstacles to satiate his desire for gaining more power in the Republic. It's important to note that he has a direct lineage to one of Pure Vanilla's trusted counselors, Premier Custard Cookie, as he is his brother. Vanilla Sugar Cookie is the head of House Vanilla Sugar and whose sphere of influence specializes in the education and training of the Republic's paladins. For those of you who may not know, paladins are bound by strict holy laws, and they're knights. So basically, they fight for the
so
holy
much
glory
information,
of whichever
man.
religion
Information
they are
overload.
for, which in this case is the Divines. Mold Juice Cookie, head of House Mold Juice, whose sphere of influence specializes in mechanical engineering and transportation. Baumkuchen Cookie is the head of House Baumkuchen, and whose sphere of influence prioritizes medicine and the well-being of cookies in the Republic. Sable or Sable, I don't know, but Sable Cookie is the head of House Sable
What is
and
going on
a
with her
generous
hair?
patron of the arts. You can think of their sphere of influence as specializing in the prosperity of the humanities. Milfoil Cookie, head of House Milfoil, is the house responsible for building the cathedrals all around the Republic. She is, however, an undercover sister of the Saint Pastry Order and got kicked out of the Convocation of Elders of the Republic due to her associations with the Order. She's presumed dead as she got absorbed by the Holy Avatar during the events of the Premonition of Doom. Canele Cookie,
wow.
head of House Canele, the house responsible
That's
for
crazy.
auditing, managing, and monitoring both the export and import in the Republic. She is also responsible for managing the coffers of the Republic, although she is currently on trial and her status as an elder put to hold due to her embezzlement and distribution of unsanctioned goods. She also wanted to steal the soul gems and got exposed for it.
Yo, that's crazy, bro. Like, there was a lot going on there. Okay, I'm gonna be real with y'all. There was a lot happening there. It's a lot, but it's very complex in a way because it's like you have a lot of these people who have so much power, and it's like they all have their own agenda, right? And this really like this is really like this is like reality in a way because you do have a lot of people who have a lot of power in society and they have their own agenda. And once they get exposed, like let's say what they're trying to do is bad in a way, they get exposed for it, they get removed, or something else happens. It's like a lot of these things that we see happening in this game happens in reality as well. So I find that very cool, man. It's like they implement a lot of things that are happening in today's society and they put it into this game. Like when it comes to politics and all that, you guys can clearly see that it's in this game as well. So I think that's interesting. Saint
To
Pastry
put it
Order.
simply, the Saint Pastry Order is a cult which believes in the idea of sacrificial death. Founded by the High Fork Bearer Doael Cookie, they worship the first witches of the first oven who created the first cookies. They use violence to silence others and indoctrinate the needy, feeble, and young cookies to join the order under the guise of warmth and acceptance. Currently, this order no longer exists due to the events of the Premonition of Doom. Basically, Doael once vanished as they encountered the incomplete avatar of destiny, an amalgamation of several cookie souls that it has consumed through a rift in the sky. Upon seeing this heavenly creature, Doael returns after a while and gains power over the order, offering themselves up to the holy avatar upon hearing the call. Milfoil Cookie also heard this, and as they both answer the call, they both get absorbed by the holy avatar, presumably killed. Currently, the Saint Pastry Order is already defunct. Now that you know the fundamentals of the Cookie Run Kingdom lore, I hope you'll have fun theorizing and exploring other facets of the story. Do note that this video does not encompass all aspects of the lore, as that's going to be a really long
so
video
there's
if
more.
that was the case. And the final.
Alright, that's a good stopping point. Holy moly, man. Holy moly. I'm going to go ahead and give this video a like. Make sure you guys go ahead and check out this person's channel. I'm going to put the link to their channel in the description down below. But, man, that was a lot, okay? That was a lot. But I'm gonna be real with y'all. I can't really like that's like an overview of what's going on in the game. I don't understand every single thing yet, but I do understand what's going on with the whole the beast cookies and stuff. I understand what's going on with that. My only question is when it comes to the wizards, the witches, do they live on Earthbread or are they I don't know, like in a different dimension? I have no idea, but when they create cookies, how do they place them on Earthbread? How do they put them in Earthbread? I don't know. You guys can let me know in the comment section up. And my favorite segment in that video, I'm gonna have to say, I think the Creme Republic was my favorite because it was really complex. You had a lot of people who were in position of power. They had a lot of power, but they all had their own agenda. right? Some of them were good, but some of them were corrupted, right? Some of them were corrupted. Some of them were doing, ridiculous things. I think one of them, they were associated with like that cult with Doyle. So yeah, I think the Creme Republic was my favorite segment. Like that was really really cool. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Like to see all of this in a cookie game blows my mind, and that just proves that it doesn't matter what type of game it is, man. Like when it comes to lore, lore is lore. Doesn't matter what the genre is. It doesn't matter if it's a cookie game, if it's a game about cakes, if it's a game about food, if it's a game about, I don't know, anything. Like for Gacha Yakuza is a perfect example. That anime is literally about trash. Okay, it's about trash, but the plot is so good in Gacha Yakuza, and that's what makes the show very very good. So that was a really really cool video. Definitely interested in the lore for Cookie Kingdom. So remember guys, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button. If this video hits 500 likes, I will make another video of me pulling on the legendary gacha banner. But hope you guys enjoyed my reaction, and we catch you guys on the next one. Adios.